Okay, it is the top of the hour, so we will go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to the Introduction to Jira Align webinar. Over the next hour, we're going to be taking a look at the tool of Jira Align itself, as well as talking about some concepts that go into a large enterprise planning tool like Jira Align. Before we get into our content, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Vicki Bodorf. I am a business process consultant with XBM, which is a platinum solutions partner with Atlassian. And throughout this presentation, I will talk a bit more about the services we offer around Jira Align, as well as the other Atlassian products. A little bit more about me. I am a certified safe program consultant, or SPC, as well as an Atlassian certified professional. I work heavily with all of the Atlassian tools, but right now a lot with Jira and Jira Align as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at our agenda for today. We're just about wrapped up with this introduction, and then we will start talking about some concepts that go into a large scaling enterprise planning tool. We'll talk about kind of who's a good fit for a tool like Jira Align and some alternatives in case it's not the right tool for you in the moment. We'll also talk about some concepts around scaled planning and the structure of Jira Align as well. Then we will get into our demonstration. I will jump into a Jira Align instance and walk you around the tool. We'll cover some of the basics, and then we'll hit some of the highlights. You will hear me say this a lot throughout the hour. Jira Align really is a very large tool. And because of that, we wouldn't be able to cover every little thing about the tool within an hour. So we'll hit those high points that we find our clients really gravitating towards whenever they first start using the tool. If, of course, after that, you want a bit more of a detailed demonstration, please feel free to reach out to us. We are happy to give demonstrations of Jira Align. We do so frequently, and we're happy to work with you to get that set up. At the end of the hour, we will do a Q&A session. So if you have any questions throughout this presentation, please dump them in the Q&A panel in Zoom. I'm also joined by our project coordination team, as well as a fellow Jira Align admin, and they will be answering some questions as we go along in the Q&A as well. Let's go ahead and jump into some of these concepts that go into a tool like Jira Align. I like to start this by talking about the positioning of the tool. Jira Align is really designed for organizations who have implemented or in the process of implementing a framework for scaling Agile. This could be the SAFe framework or the Spotify model, to name a couple. And we have found that our clients are most successful with Jira Align whenever they have been through at least one program increment, or PI. That's the quarterly planning increment that teams will go through to plan out their work for the quarter. And that's really so that some of that process around scaling Agile is in place, and then we can implement this tool alongside that. Jira Align is a large-scale tool meant for enterprises. It does come at a higher price point than the other Atlassian tools like Jira, and it is meant for enterprises that have about 500 developers or more working for them. We do believe that smaller organizations might struggle with either the scale of the tool or potentially the price point. If you feel like that might be the boat that you are in, don't fret. There are other options within other Atlassian tools to help you get started on the scaling journey until you're ready for a large tool like Jira Align. And I will talk more about those at the end of this slide deck. The last couple points here you'll see all throughout these slides, as well as in the tool. Jira Align really is a tool meant to help you see work from the CEO level down to those Agile team members. I like to call it from strategy down to story. And it is this full application that does help you plan and visualize your work across your enterprise. Next, I want to just talk about some of the concepts around scaled planning. I like showing this diagram because I find that it really does represent all the moving parts of scaled planning. If you have implemented a scaled planning process or in the process of doing so, you've probably seen a similar diagram, if not this one specifically. And more importantly, you've probably felt some of the chaos that's represented here. Planning at scale is a complex and a fast-moving process that does have all these different moving parts. But what a tool like Jira Align helps us to do is really do this efficiently across these various layers of scale. So we'll just start talking about these layers that we see here briefly, and then you'll see them across the tool when we get into the demo portion as well. In the bottom left corner here, we see this Agile team level. This is where Agile teams are doing their sprint planning. They are doing their various Agile ceremonies, they're planning out their sprints, they're running their sprints, they're creating their stories to break down those features here at the team level. Even though it does say this is the 4th level, I like to point out that that in no way means that it is not an important layer of scale. It is the layer where we are doing the work to accomplish those larger strategies. So it is very important still. Above that here in square 3, we do see our program layer. This is where we're working with our features. We are estimating those features. We're doing events like our PI planning or our big room planning, and we're using tools like our program board to do so. Our teams are figuring out when they are going to be able to work on these features and breaking those features down into their stories for their iterations. Above that, we do have the portfolio layer. This is where we're dealing with our epics. These are often items that will span multiple quarters, potentially multiple programs. This is where we're doing a lot of our budgeting duties up at the portfolio level, and we're deciding if we're going to pivot or persevere with these epics as they go through the intake process. The last layer you see here is representative of the product layer. Not everyone who does scaled planning or everyone who uses Jira Align uses this product layer, but it is just a different slice of data. So we can see what we are working on at the various layers of scale to accomplish or to support these various products that we offer. Again, as you can see, trying to implement or scale Agile across your organization can be a long and complex undertaking. And something that we are big advocates of it here at XVM is that tools are never going to define your process, but what tools are the invaluable piece of this process implementation that allows you to plan, understand, and visualize your work across your enterprise. Now let's go ahead and talk about how Jira Align helps us handle the complexity of scaled planning. What Jira Align really helps us with is syncing people, the work they do, and time across the enterprise. And we're able to easily see all of this in one tool. And I have a second slide I'll show you in a second where we'll look at even more details of those various layers of Jira Align that it helps us sync. Here we are able to see, again, all the way from that enterprise layer up at that top management layer, all the way down to the Agile team layer, all within one tool. We're able to get that top-down look of our planning and understand what our Agile teams are doing to support those long-term strategies set at that enterprise layer. A tool like Jira Align also has some specific modules to help us with some intricacies of the scaled planning, such as strategic portfolio, product management, and scaled development modules that help us see those different slices of data across our enterprise. What you can also see here is that Jira Align really is meant to layer on top of one or more Jira instances. So a little bit of history of Jira Align. It started out as a project called a product called Agile Craft. And when it was Agile Craft, it served as a tool for the entire enterprise. So everyone was working within the same tool. Since then, Atlassian has acquired Agile Craft a few years ago and turned it into Jira Align. And now the intent of the tool is to sit on top of this Jira layer where our Agile teams are working. And they are getting all the benefits that we know and love about Jira. They get their Scrum boards with their sprint capabilities, their Agile reports, their dashboards, filters, all of those pieces of Jira that are really great at that team layer. That information does sync over to Jira Align, and then everyone at the program layer on up is using Jira Align to see the full picture, both up and down that hierarchy, to really understand the work that they are doing. And there is, again, quite a bit of bidirectional syncing at the story and also a little bit at that program layer to make sure that everyone in both tools sees the information that they need. Now let's go ahead and talk about the various hierarchies within Jira Align. And I kind of alluded to this earlier, but we have essentially 3 hierarchies in Jira Align of people, work, and time. And I just want to briefly kind of walk through these various hierarchies. Sometimes this slide can be a little overwhelming because there's a lot going on, and we will step through it, but I just want to also mention that if you really think about the work you do, all work really boils down to these three concepts of syncing people, the work they do across time. And a tool like Jira Align really brings those concepts to the surface and helps us efficiently and effectively plan across those layers throughout the various layers of scale for our enterprise. First, let's talk about the people hierarchy here. It's represented in white. We do start up at the top at that enterprise layer. We come down to that portfolio or solution layer as well, breaking that down into our program layer and then down to our agile teams here. And we'll talk about the work items that these teams do or these layers do in just a moment. But really what these layers control, if you will, is what type of work are the people at these layers doing. And then also in a tool like Jira Align, membership in these various layers determines what you can see and do within the tool. So we're using this as a bit of a permissioning layer as well. Now let's move over and talk about the work that these layers do. This is literally representing the work items that these various layers are creating and managing. Up at the top at our enterprise layer, we're working with our strategy. We're able to add strategic items into a tool like Jira Align, and we are able to view those in a strategic backlog and in a couple different ways that I'll show you that can be really useful when we get into the demo portion. Those strategies are broken down into themes and epics at that portfolio layer. And then that is broken down potentially into capabilities if you're using that solution layer or into features if you are not. And those features are what fit into that program increment. And then our agile teams are breaking those features down into stories and tasks. And a lot of times bugs get thrown in here and linked to those features as well. Let's drop down and now talk about that time hierarchy. So that's represented here in blue. We have a few different layers or slices of time that we can easily view in Jira Align. We start off with a concept of a strategic snapshot. This is helping us look at that year or potentially years long strategy that we are setting up and comparing that to other snapshots over time to see how we are changing that strategy. We also have the quarterly increment or program increment concept in Jira Align that we are linking those features to. We're also linking this to things like our epics and our themes, deciding in what actual quarters or program increments are we working on these items. And then that, again, goes down into the sprint and release layer that our agile teams are working on. So this is that sprint cadence. A lot of times that's a 2-week iteration cadence. And then we also have the concept of releases, and whatever release cadence you are working on, we are able to put into Jira Align. There's also a fourth bonus layer to this of business vectors here. And we basically have different slices of information that, again, we can link into these other layers, link into these work items, and just get different pieces of information over time. So we do have that product module to understand what we're working on to support our various products. We have our OKRs, our objectives and key results that we can attach to these layers to really see how we are moving towards those key goals. We also have our value streams, which allow us to implement a custom process flow in Jira Align. And we have domain and budgeting information we can plug into this too. And I know this has been quite a lot, but remember the slide as we go through that demo, and you will see how each of these comes into play within Jira Align. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the offers that come with Jira Align. There are 2 different editions of the tool. There's a standard and an enterprise edition. We do see most clients opting for that enterprise edition because it does come with a sandbox instance. So you get a dev or test instance that allows you to have a practice run with your configuration and your syncing between Jira and Jira Align. Make sure that you're happy with it before you put that into production with your production data. There are a couple of add-ons available for the tool as well. There's a time tracking and an enterprise insights add-on. So if you are needing some advanced capabilities outside of what Jira Align offers out of the box, you can utilize those add-ons. And then some new and upcoming features that Atlassian has been talking about. They are making improvements to the connector between Jira and Jira Align, making that a bit easier to manage. They've been talking about some Trello integration as well as improving the OKR functionality. They have made some updates to the OKR tree, but I believe there are still some more updates to that feature to come. And then they've been talking about some AI features as well. As I'm sure you gathered, and as I've said a couple times, Jira Align really is a very large tool, and it does take some time to actually implement it. So what we have on the screen here is the typical implementation path that we follow whenever we're working with clients with Jira Align. Whenever we do this type of implementation, we're usually talking about a 3-month time span. And during that 3 months, we'll be working with a single program or Agile release train. So that'll be that program layer and all of the Agile teams below that. And then the second green bar here is really the various steps, the 5 steps we go through during these engagements. So we do have a planning period where we're planning out how we're going to get everything done, who's going to be involved, who's making decisions. Then we go through some discovery. We're going to learn how you guys operate, what you do today, what you want to do in the future, what metrics are important to you, all of the goals that you're setting for a tool like Jira Align to make sure we are helping you accomplish those. And then we get into the configuration. So we're going to actually start configuring Jira Align itself. This also often involves some configuring of Jira. There are some nuances to how tools like Jira or other team tools that interact with Jira Align sync to Jira Align, and we will be walking you through that and making configuration changes as we go. Then we will do some training. We love role-based training here at XBM, so we'll do several training sessions with the various roles that will be operating within the tool. And then we get to that PI planning. That's usually the end goal, is that we do all this work up to one of those PI planning events where teams and everyone involved in that event are able to utilize Jira Align. Of course, after that, we do any tweaks we need to the tool, and then we can start talking about expanding into more programs or even into the portfolio. These are the typical steps that you will see no matter really who you work with to implement Jira Align. If this sounds like a path you want to go down, or you're interested in more information about our process and our services, please feel free to reach out to us. You can always find us on our website, xbm.com, or feel free to throw your contact information in the Q&A panel, and we'll reach out to you after this webinar. Before we get into the demo portion, I do want to just briefly mention another Atlassian tool. If so far you've realized, maybe Jira Align is a bit of a big bite for you at this point, but you still want to work towards scaling your organization, Advanced Roadmaps is another Atlassian tool that can help you at the beginning of your journey until you're ready for a tool like Jira Align. Advanced Roadmaps, like the name says, is a road mapping tool that can help us understand our roll-up of data as well as planning into the future. And if you formerly, Advanced Roadmaps was known as Portfolio for Jira. And what this tool is really good for is it's great for growing Agile organizations that really need visibility, shared focus, and accurate delivery across their organization. This tool really does help us with planning across multiple teams and align our work to higher level initiatives. Jira Align, as you'll see today, will have a bit more robust capabilities around these concepts and around that higher level planning. But if you are just starting your scaling journey, I encourage you to check out Advanced Roadmaps. It is included now in Jira Cloud Premium and enterprise instances, as well as data center instances. And it can be really great to helping you align your work and understand that roll up into higher levels of work as you begin this scaling journey. We also always do demos around Advanced Roadmaps as well as training. If you are interested in either of those, please feel free to reach out. If you're not ready to reach out and have those conversations yet, we also have another webinar. It's a free 1-hour webinar over Advanced Roadmaps, or that goes a bit deeper into Advanced Roadmaps, as well as Jira Align, called the Portfolio Management in Jira webinar. And I'll ask the coordination team to throw a link to the sign up to that in the chat. All right. That is enough of the slides for now. We are now going to jump into the actual tool. All right. And as I'm signing in here, Jira Align is a cloud-based tool, and it does allow you to integrate your SSO strategy if you have one. Let's see if we can get rid of this guy real quick. Okay. All right. To start this off, I really like to start with some of the basics of the navigation of Jira Align, since it is an introduction webinar. I really like to do this for two reasons. One, navigating Jira Align is a bit different than other Atlassian tools. And two, because I think even just looking at the navigation of this tool, you really start to see how it is organized around these various layers of scale. So you'll start to see really how this can help you understand the roll up from that team all the way up to your enterprise layer. The main way that we navigate Jira Align is through this blue sidebar over here on the left. We start off with a home button and then our profile. Just like Jira, you are able to update some of your preferences here. And this home button takes you to the page you see on my screen right now. I'm going to skip past this magnifying glass and this star for just a moment, and we're going to get down into this these other icons, starting with this web-like one. This is the enterprise layer. So right here, I'm able to click on the enterprise and see the various pages and reports that I'm able to go to understand work at this enterprise layer. This is where we are dealing with that strategy again. We have things like the strategy room, the strategy backlog. We're able to make our strategic snapshots and our goals, and really any of that work that we are doing to plan out that long-term strategy for our organization, we're able to manage here at the enterprise layer. We then are able to drop down to the portfolio layer, and this is where we are managing those epics and those themes. We're able to see them in things like our portfolio backlog, move them through our intake process. We're able to see our budgeting information here as well. And you'll notice on some of these menus, you can press show all, and it'll show you even more information that you're able to manage and look at reporting on here in the portfolio layer. Below the portfolio layer is the solution layer. The solution layer is not always turned on for in Jira Align instances. It is an optional layer. Really, if you are needing that solution in between your program and your portfolio. So we actually don't often turn this on for clients. Most people opt to not use it. They just go from the portfolio down to the program. And at that program layer, we are going to be seeing things like our features. We'll see things like our program board, where we are able to help teams plan out those features across our program increment. And we have a lot of tracking capability of the program tracking, program increment tracking, things like that. There is a team layer in Jira Align. Keep in mind the intent of the tool now from Atlassian is to use Jira as that team tool. You do still have some capability to see that information of stories, defects, etc. here at the team layer, as well as some reporting, but teams in general will be over in Jira or another team tool potentially, managing their sprints and using all of those agile capabilities in Jira. Next, we do have the product layer. Again, this is an optional piece that not everyone opts to use, but if you do, you're able to set up things like your actual products. You can set up your vision for those products, personas and competitors. You can do ideation on it. Just a different slice of data for us to look at what we are working on at those other layers of scale that support our actual products here. As you can see, there is a lot on all of these menus, and that can be really overwhelming when you're first seeing the tool and also when people are first getting into the tool. So I want to let you know that all of these layers we are able to toggle on and off, and pretty much all of these options you see on these menus, we're able to toggle on and off as well. If you work with XMean to implement Jira Align, you will hear us say that we want to keep this down to the minimum of what is actually needed for users when they first get into the tool. And as those needs arise for more reports, for more information, we are able to then toggle these features back on. Even with doing that though, it still can be a very big tool to navigate. So I want to just give you a couple quick tips of how to navigate a little bit quicker whenever you're new to Jira Align. First, this magnifying glass here is actually a search bar for this entire menu. So here you are able to type in something like program, and it's going to show you all of the options that have program in the name. And I can go further to type in program board, and then right there I have my program board. So this is one of the quickest ways to actually navigate across the tool. Under the star, you are able to actually favorite or bookmark these pages in order to get to them quicker, and you can see any of your recent items as well. So just some quick tips on how to navigate this, especially when you're new. At the bottom of this navigation bar, there are a few more options. We're not going to dig into this too much. We have some custom room options. We have some reports. We'll look at this a little bit more later on. There's lots of reports available. We can turn on this collaboration to do some in-app chatting here. And then we do have our administration. The one thing I want to mention about administration is we are actually able to customize some of the terminology within this tool. So if you're looking at this and you follow a different model than the SAFe framework, we are able to customize some of these terminology pieces to actually fit what your organization is calling that. So just keep that in mind. There is some customization options there, although the default is to be using the SAFe terminology. The next navigation piece to know about is the what we like to call the context bar. This is also referred to as the configuration bar or the config bar, and it's up here at the top, this gray bar here. What this does is it actually serves as a huge filter across the entire instance. So what we can do is in this context bar, set the slice of data we want to view. So if we just care about a single portfolio or a single program or a selection of programs, we can set that up here in the context bar. And then we can click through these menus over here on the left and just see the information that applies to that context that we care about. Whenever you click on this first option, you're able to choose those various layers of scale. We have a left and a right-hand side of this. Really, they show the same thing, just in a different format. So here we're able to see all of our portfolios grouped together, all of our programs, and then down into all of our Agile teams. And then over here on the right, we're able to see the exact same thing, just more in this hierarchical view. So we actually see the actual portfolio broken down into all of its programs, which we can expand to view all of the teams under that program as well. So again, right from the navigation of this tool, from the context bar to the menu, you're able to see that we are able to select any slice of this of these layers to actually view, to see that full top-down or bottom-up view of information throughout this tool. Next to that, next to the work slices of this, we are also able to add in things like a program increment or a release vehicle or products, or even some more slices to this as well. Some screens that you click on will tell you have to make a certain selection of either a portfolio or a specific PI to view the information on the screen. This is where you're able to do that. And there's some advanced configurations you can add in as well. And you can even save these. So if you're always flipping back and forth between a couple of configurations in this context bar, you're able to do so quickly. Over here at the right, I want to mention a couple other cool pieces of the tool. This little clipboard here is actually a checklist menu. You're able to create these custom checklists. So if you have a checklist you want people to follow for pre-PI planning or during PI planning, you can do so. They can open those up. Oop, doesn't look like this one wants to open. There we go. You might have to make a quick selection here. Oops. And anyways, it'll pop up a checklist at the bottom of your screen you can check through. And then we also are able to embed training simulations. So there are some out-of-the-box training simulations here in the tool from Atlassian. And there are some ways to actually put your own custom training simulations in here. Very, very useful whenever you are first implementing Jira Align. Again, it's a big tool. People can learn how to actually use the tool through these. There are some in-app notifications under the notification bell, and then we see another search bar. The search, you will notice that you will always see two magnifying glasses on your screen, one over here on the context bar and one over here on the left on the navigation bar. I like to remember this, or the differences between the two because they are different. The one on the navigation bar searches the navigation bar. The one over here searches work items, and you can remember that because it's right next to the create button, which very similar to Jira, if you're used to that tool, serves as how we can create any of these work items. So you'll see I'm able to create items at every layer of scale here. Depending on what role you have in your company will determine which of these items you're actually able to create and manage. But this is where you can create an item from anywhere in the tool, and then you can actually search those items under this search bar here. The last navigation piece I want to mention is this help button down here at the right. This is a contextual help button, meaning that it changes depending on what screen you are on. And what it shows you is the documentation for Jira Align. So if you are on something like the program board, you can press this button and it will show you the documentation on the program board, how to use it, how to interpret it, things like that. And you can also use this on any of the reports to understand how to interpret those reports. Any page that you are on, even the administration pages, you are able to use this help button to understand more information about what you are looking at. Okay, now we're going to start getting into those highlights that I mentioned about the tool. Really, there are two overarching uses of Jira Align that you can boil the tool down to. The first is the strategic top-down planning capabilities, and then it's the visualization of work in process that rolls up from the Agile team layer throughout the other layers of scale. So that's what we're going to focus on, and what we're going to kind of group these two we're going to group these highlights into, starting with that top-down planning portion. And we're going to do this by first looking at the enterprise layer. And here I'm going to actually go to the strategy room. So at the enterprise layer, we're able to create our strategic items. We're able to create a snapshot to look at those items over time. And then we're able to view those here in the strategy room. Right at the top, we're able to align on our mission, vision, and values. We're also able to then see those aligned in the strategic pyramid. So we are able to see the mission, vision, values, and how those boil down into other types of goals. These layers we are able to toggle on and off. So if you have more layers of goals or less layers of goals, we can customize that a bit. And then we start to see how that boils down into our actual work items of our themes, our epics, and our features here. Over on the right-hand side, we start to see some snapshot progress of those work items and how we are working to complete them, all the way down to the stories and even the dependencies here. And then we are going to see our execution against our outcomes as well. At the bottom of the page, you start to see your OKR tracking. So you're going to see them in this heat map form, and then we can also see them in a tree. So here you are able to boil or to dig down from those upper layers of goals into your lower ones here as well. So we can expand our yearly goals into our quarterly goals, for example. Overall, the strategy room serves as a great dashboard for people working at that enterprise layer to really keep track of how we are moving towards these overall strategic goals. Next, we're going to move into the backlog section and see how we are able to visualize work from the upper layers down to the lower levels in the backlog. Each layer of scale has its own backlog, and we're able to see one layer down. So here we are looking at the portfolio backlog. I'm actually going to go up a layer to theme here. Keep in mind, I am looking at all of the themes now that apply to the digital services portfolio, because that's what's in my context bar. And then sometimes on these screens, you do have to press this plus button to expand the items. So if you have multiple PIs selected, it would start grouping these by PI, for example. In each of the backlogs, they all operate the same, and they're pretty standard to how we're used to backlogs operating. We are able to expand these work items to see the next layer down. Looks like that one doesn't have any epics linked to it. Okay. And then we are also able to drag and drop these to re-rank them. You can also select the summary of these items, and you will see what we call the details panel. And that's this panel that pops out on the right. This is how you will visualize every work item in Jira Align. It will be this pop-out panel. You're able to fill in any of the fields here, and then below you'll start to see items that are linked to this as well. A little bit more about the backlog. You're able to choose what columns you see, and you can even apply some filters as well. I'm going to drop down into the Epic backlog just to show you some of the budgeting capabilities here at the Epic level. Expand this once again. All right, I'm going to open up one of these epics here. And you'll notice we have lots of fields available on the epics. So this again is that layer where we are doing a lot of multi-quarter planning a lot of times, and also doing a lot of our budgeting practices here as well. Just briefly walking through this, a lot of this is common on this details panel across the various work items. We always have a description, our title is up here at the top, and then we start to see those specific fields where we can designate what program is involved, who the owner of this is. At the epic level, because these can span multiple program increments, as you see here, you will start to have your estimation and your prioritization throughout all of the program increments that are selected. So here we see multiple WSJF scores. That's the way to shortest job first, a way of prioritizing these epics in SAFe. We have a score for each PI that this epic is involved in. And then we start to see our estimation. In this case, t-shirt size is our estimation tactic. And we see that for each quarter as well. On these work items, you can usually press see full details, and then you will actually be able to fill in more fields. And below that, you'll start to see what items are linked to this. So if this had any children, we'd be able to expand that here and see it, and you can also add some in as well. Let's just briefly walk through some of these other tabs on the epic here. We do have a design tab to capture our design hypothesis. We have an intake tab, so we can customize this a bit, the pieces that are important to you during that epic intake. We are also able to capture that lean business case. This is documented here so people can reference this throughout the epic process or the epic intake and evaluation process. Under value, we're able to assign a value score. This is really centering around value engineering, which is an important piece of SAFe as well as Jira Align. And under time and skills in finance, we have our budgeting information. Jira Align does support 2 common ways of budgeting. It does support excuse me, it does support lean budgeting as well as assigning the budget and the CapEx and OpEx to the epic specifically. We also have some forecasting information as well as some links. And you'll notice over here on the right-hand side, we will always see this roll-up of estimation. So this is taking story points from the feature level all the way down to the team level and rolling that up to this epic level. We're also always going to see a few more options over here. Sometimes it's a bit of reporting, or we can choose to watch this item as well. Also in the backlog, you are able to customize what we call the Kanban view. So we're going to look at this Kanban state view, and I just want you to see that here you are actually able to view a Kanban board for this intake process. So you can set up a custom process if you want, or you can use the one that's fixed in Jira Align and move these epics just like a Kanban board from column to column to actually move it along your intake process. Again, up here at the upper part of the screen, you're able to dig down into either the capability backlog if you're using that, or even into the feature backlog, where again, you can see that Kanban board as well as view it as a list as well. All right. There we go. This is the features here. Right. Let's go ahead and dig into see some more information that we are able to see to help us with this top-down planning at the program level, starting with the program board. Seem to have frozen a bit. The program layer is, in my opinion, the most feature-rich area of Jira Align. There's a lot of visualizations that really help us understand our work across the program and throughout various program increments. You'll notice that in order to view this, I do have to select a specific program as well as at least one program increment, although you can select multiple. And then we will actually see the program board here. If you have not seen a program board before, they generally look like this. It is a mainstay of SAFe to help us plan our work across multiple teams throughout our program increment. And historically, this has been done on whiteboards or potentially on walls in our program planning events. Nowadays, we are able to do this digitally, which of course is very useful as we are working in more of a dispersed workforce these days. And what is a great benefit of doing your program board in a tool like Jira Align is that it updates automatically. So as we make updates to dependencies, to our features, to stories linked to those features, we're going to start to see those effects take place on the program board, and we can monitor this throughout the program increment without anyone having to go and manually update it like you would in those other versions of either doing it on a whiteboard or You could do it virtually on things like Miro or Mural digital whiteboarding tools, but still they would have to be manually updated. Here we are going to get those real-time updates right on our program board. Right. Let's go ahead and walk through this, what this program board is made up of real quick. Each row here represents a team, and at the bottom we do have an unassigned team row, and each column represents a sprint or iteration within our program increment that we've selected in the context bar up at the top. And of course, there is an unplanned sprint item as well. Then we get into these various symbols that do represent different work items. If you are looking at this and you're wondering, how am I supposed to remember what these items or what these symbols mean? I do want to just let you know that over here, there is a legend that you are able to look at to understand this better, as well as there's a couple of other views that you are able to utilize, like the normal view, which will show you a bit more information. I'm going to turn this back to the small view just so we can see more of the board on the screen here. Each of these rectangles represents a feature. Each of the plus symbols or Chevy symbols represents a dependency. So dependencies are actual work items that we make in Jira Align, and you can track them on your program board. And each of these hexagons represents an objective. And we can choose to toggle objectives on and off if you don't want to see those here. You'll notice as I hover over these, they do start to show items that are linked to them. So I can see that this dependency is linked to a feature 3422. And I notice that it's red. So I like to apply stoplight logic to the program board. Green means it's good, it's accepted. Blue is also meaning it's good, it's in progress. If we start to see yellows and oranges, we need to start being cautious. We're starting to see some planning issues with that. And red means let's stop what we're doing. Let's figure out what these planning issues are, because we're at risk of not completing these items by the end of the PI. Whenever you see something that is red, you can obviously hover over it to see what items it's linked to, as well as Jira Align will tell you some of the planning issues. So you may be able to see at the bottom of my screen, there's a little pop-up in the left-hand corner that is showing you some of those planning issues. It doesn't always come across the Zoom, so I'll go ahead and click on this dependency here. And at the top of the item, it's going to show you what those planning issues are, so you can decide how you want to take action, show you some details about that dependency, as well as what stories it is linked to here as well. Now with the use of this program board, we are able to track our work and plan. We're not only able to plan out our work at the beginning of our program increment, but we're able to track it throughout that program increment as well. Right. Let's talk about a couple more pieces of this top-down planning perspective. At the program layer, we're also able to do more dependency management. So the program board is a useful tool to help you understand what dependencies you have throughout your program increment, but you're also able to go into the dependency module of Jira Align to see a bit more information. When you open this up, you will see what dependencies are existing for the selection you've made in the context bar. So in this case, for this program, for this PI. We see what's been delivered, and if there's anything that needs action, we'll see it up here at the top. This is already a very useful view for organizations. Dependencies can often be hard to track across your organization, especially as you are scaling, and you're able to come to this module and see this right here. I'm going to go ahead and open one of these up so you can just see some of the fields that are involved with a dependency. First, we actually have a little mini workflow on these dependencies to understand if it's committed or not and when it's completed. Below that, you start to see a lot of important information about when, if the work is done, when it's needed by, when it's committed to be completed, what program increment is it a part of, who's requesting it, who does it depend on. All of this is right here on this dependency. So you are able to center around this work right within the tool. Additionally, there are even more views under this maps menu that you are able to actually understand your dependencies across the enterprise. So I'm going to show what we call the wheel view, and it is a wheel that shows you all of your dependencies. So it has all the teams that have dependencies on them as a part of the wheel, and it starts to show you those links. I like this view because it does start to show you if you have a lot of red on here, you got a lot of dependency problems. And you can also start to monitor how many dependencies your organization is actually having. So if we have quite a few, maybe we need to start looking at how we are organizing our programs and our teams, and if they can be more self-sufficient if we reorganize those. You can also click onto any of these and it will load a little sidebar over here that'll show you some information about what work is needed from this team and what work does this team need. Last thing I'll show you here at the program layer is the risk management. Risks are a work item that can be created in Jira Align. You can view those here. And what I really like to show is that Jira Align supports the Roam methodology that is supported by SAFe. And it's very informative to look at these risks because right off the bat, you can see how you handled these risks. So you can start to put in all this information and then show how you actually mitigated or resolved this risk. And then there's some reporting around this as well. So again, risks can be difficult to actually track across the enterprise, but Jira Align has this module that allows you to keep track of it here and also view reporting on how are we typically handling these risks. Are we actually resolving them? Are we just accepting them? How can we handle this better in the future? Right. As you can see from the navigation of this tool and some of these highlights, Jira Align is this robust tool that really does help us with our strategic planning from the enterprise layer down to those agile teams. Next, we are going to talk about how we can actually visualize our work as our work is in process. So we're going to look at some reporting and some of these various rooms that can help us with reporting and understanding our work in process. First, I do want to briefly just talk about some services that we have here at XBM. Again, XBM is a Platinum Solutions partner with Atlassian. That is the top tier of partner that you can be in the Atlassian partner program. And I like to summarize it by saying we're a jack of all trades with the Atlassian tools. So you can see some of our services, what our services really center around here on the screen. We do a lot of training, both public and private. I'll show you some more on the public training in just a minute. We do that around Jira Align. We do that around Jira as well. We also do consulting. This is kind of a catch-all. We do implementations, migrations, integrations between Jira and Jira Align. We do quite a bit under this consulting umbrella here. We also have some custom development capabilities. So we actually have a sister company that is a full stack development team that we can pull in whenever we need to make something custom that's not out of the box in the Atlassian tools. On the screen, you'll see our schedule for our upcoming events, our upcoming webinars and classes that we have. All of our webinars are free. They're 1 hour long. They are always on Thursdays at 11 a.m. Central. And then we also have some boot camps around Jira and Confluence, which are some paid courses that will take you through those tools and get you up and running in them very quickly. If you have any questions about our classes, please feel free to reach out either on our website or feel free to email me. We're always happy to provide more information about our services and how we can best help you. Let's go back to the demo. Thank you for tuning in to the XBM commercial. Move this down. All right. As I mentioned, we are now going to talk about how we can visualize our work in Jira Align. So now we've used Jira Align to plan our work from the top layers down to the Agile team layers. And now we want to monitor that work as we are doing it. Keep in mind, in this example, teams are working over in Jira. They're using their Jira boards and reports and monitoring those. So for this, I'm going to actually start at the program layer once again and take a look at some of the options we have here. We've already looked at that program board, but there's also what we call a program room. Each layer of scale really has these rooms that really serve as a dashboard for the entire program. And so you make your program and program increment selection in the context bar, and it's going to show you this breakdown of work. From this program room right here, I am able to see how many features we've committed to in this PI, how many stories are linked to that, what's our total planned story points. And then I start to see a breakdown of team information. What's my team progress? Where are we at in our sprints and our PI? What's our program load? What's the team load? What risks do we have? What release vehicles are we talking about down here? And over here, we actually start to see a breakdown of the, or a preview of the backlog. So we can actually break these down and start to see what features we're talking about and what stories are linked to those as well. And over on the right-hand side, we have modules around the overall progress at the various layers of scale here, as well as our dependencies and our objectives at the bottom. Up at the top, you can also click on a specific team to see just this information about a specific team. And then you can click Program View to go back to viewing them all as well. Also at the program layer, we have some road mapping capabilities. So we are able to actually see these roadmaps in Jira Align that allow us to monitor when our work is scheduled. We're able to customize this a little bit as to how you view it. I'm viewing this in the feature by epic view. So what we see here are all of our epics for, again, our selected program increment and involved with the program we've selected. And I can expand that to see the features that are linked. And then these little numbers also show the stories that are linked to that feature. And then these stars represent milestones. So we can put milestones on our epics to really understand the key points where we need to decide, do we want to pivot or persevere with this epic? The colors on this are customizable, so you can actually use this in your planning process, or also as you're monitoring this and you have meetings with stakeholders, you can start to turn these bars different colors to tell the story about what's going good, what's in trouble, what do we need to evaluate and make decisions on. All right, I'm now going to go up to the portfolio room. Again, it really just serves as a dashboard for the portfolio layer. And I do need to make a specific portfolio selection here. And now we just see information a layer higher than that program layer. So here we're looking, again, we have our program increment roadmap. We have our breakdown, or our preview rather, of our backlog that does show the breakdown of these epics into features. We can keep track of our theme progress throughout our program increments, so see how close we are to completing those strategic themes. And over here we have our PI progress as well. We also are able to view some resource information. So if you're using Jira Align for some capacity planning, you can start to view that information here, as well as our financials information. We're doing a lot of budgeting at this portfolio layer, and there's some dashboard capabilities in this room view as well. All right. Next, let's go ahead and drop down to the product layer. The product layer does also have a room. Again, if you are organized at the program layer around your products more, you may not use this product module, but if it's something you're interested in, there is this room. It is still in a beta version, so we see changes to this every now and then, but you are able to see information about your value engineering, your theme effort distribution for these various products that you input into the tool here. You can also see what items are actually linked to it and the backlog, and then you can even view this on a roadmap as well. The last thing that we will talk about here is the reporting capabilities. So in the navigation bar at the very bottom, this little graph looking icon is the reports. There are lots of reports in Jira Align. You can use the categories on the left to navigate across them. You can type in some questions and search items here as well. And then you can just scroll through them, and I will give you a pro tip. There's a lot of reports here. I've scrolled a few times and I'm just down into the D's and E's of the reports. Control F also works on this. So if you have a lot of reports turned on and you are struggling navigating it, I encourage you to just Control F and find the report you're looking for. Reports are also able to be toggled on and toggled off in Jira Align. So again, when we work with clients, we really encourage, just look at the metrics you actually need right now. Let's turn those on in the production environment so people don't get so overwhelmed when they come to this reporting section. Leave them on in the dev environment if you have one, so people can explore them, and just make sure people have the work that they actually need. I also want to show, again, that whenever you click on these reports, you'll see the information up here on the screen. And then you can also click the help button. This does actually talk about the actual report that you are on, so you can learn how to actually interpret the report, what the prerequisites are for this report to be showing valuable data, and how the report is calculated as well. So really the help bar, or the help button, is one of the most useful pieces of Jira Align, I think, especially when you are new to the tool. All right, well, that wraps up the demo portion of the webinar. Hopefully this has been helpful for you, and you've seen that Jira Align is a very large tool, but it is very effective in helping us understand and track our work across our enterprise at the various layers of scale. With that, we will turn into the Q&A portion. So if you have any questions, do jump them in the Q&A panel of Zoom, and we will work through those. move that over here. Also, I want to mention, if you're interested in either a more in-depth demo or information about what services we offer around Jira Align, please do feel free to reach out. Again, you can do so on our website. If you friended me on LinkedIn, you can reach out there. We're always happy to discuss and try and set up demos to help you better understand these tools. All right, looks like we've got a couple questions trickling in. One of the questions is, how customizable are the reports in Jira Align? Great question, since we are here on the reporting page. The customization of reports in Jira Align is limited. If you're looking to build your own reports, you will need to have the BI connector that is made for Jira Align called Leo, which can help you connect to the BI tool of your choice. So get that information from Jira Align into whatever report you're looking for. I do always encourage people to go ahead and check out all these reports. There are a ton of reports here, and see if the information is already within the tool for you. Also, check out the program room, the portfolio room. Areas like that can contain a lot of important information as well. And then if we're still needing some customized reports, let's explore that BI tool. Couple more questions here. Looking at the program board, it's a bit overwhelming. Do teams actually plan with that? So yes, teams do use the program board to plan. People can do it in a variety of ways. A lot of times we see people kind of projecting the board up on a screen, and then teams either use the board itself in Jira Align to plan, or they might kind of plan stuff out on if they're in one place on a piece of paper and then input that information into Jira and Jira Align. It does seem a little bit overwhelming at first, so let me choose a program here, and I'll just show you a couple of options that are available to help you interpret this. First, limiting your context bar to a single program and a single PI makes the board very small and a lot more understandable. Also, you do have the capability to change the view here to understand more of the information. You also can go under the extra configurations, and you can toggle a lot of these items off. So if you only want to see a certain type of feature, which you can identify that type on the feature itself, you can toggle those off. You can choose to show objectives or choose to show dependencies, and you can do some advanced filtering down here as well. You're also able to use the team rank here to actually move the teams to whatever order you want. So this is on an individual by individual basis. So if you are working with a specific team, you can move this up for yourself, and it's not going to impact anyone else. So you can put these in the order that makes the most sense for you. All right. Looks like we have one more question. Anything to consider before we start using Jira Align? What we always encourage people to do is to define your process, document that process, and publish it in an accessible place. If you are already using Jira Align, you can kind of manipulate the checklist capability over here to serve more as a documentation area. You can document that process or actually create a checklist here, or document it in a tool like Confluence. Make that accessible for everyone so they know how to use this tool and what process you have in place at your enterprise to actually do proper planning and proper input into this tool as well. And after that, you can start configuring the tool and using it. And of course, you can always reach out to us or any other Atlassian to get started with a partner to help you throughout that configuration and discovery process. Any other questions before we wrap up? How does the sync work between Jira and Jira Align, and will features created in Jira Align show up in Jira? Great question. The sync works at the team and at the program layer. And what that means is that items like stories or bugs, and also at the program layer, features created in either tool will sync bidirectionally. We also have a lot of fields that sync bidirectionally between the tools. teams that are working in Jira will be able to see those features. So they will sync to Jira, from Jira Align to Jira as the Jira epics. And fun fact, if you are using Data Center currently, you can actually change the naming of epics in Jira to say features. Highly recommend that if you are starting to use the tool while implementing SAFe. Keep the naming the same, especially because we have that SAFe portfolio epic layer in Jira Align. That was a little side tangent, but yes, teams will be able to see those epics in Jira. If you work with us, we will help set up your Jira to be the optimal configuration to sync to Jira Align. Teams will see those epics. They will see them on the epics panel of their Scrum boards, and then they will be able to break those down into stories that will, of course, sync over to Jira Align. So whoever is working in either tool will see the information that they need to appropriately plan and execute their work. Is there an integration between Jira and Confluence? There's not currently an integration between Jira and Confluence, but over time we are seeing that more integration between Atlassian tools is occurring. So keep an eye out for it potentially. I don't have any specific information on that. It would be very useful, but currently there is not. You can always get links from Confluence pages and put them on your work items if you have documentation on them somewhere. You can use links in your checklists, for example, as well, and kind of make those links available to people in the tool in a couple different ways. Right. Well, that brings us to the end of the hour. Thank you everyone for attending. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to follow up with us via email or on our website. And good luck in your Jira Align journey.